Hello and welcome to yet another special coverage of OneCricket's extended English summer. And today we are at a special place. Today we are at, at the at the heart of, what can I say, the factory where the Duke's cricket ball, arguably the best cricket ball in the world, is being made. And we have got the permission, thanks to do this special story. And I would like to thank Mr. Dilip Jajodia, who is the owner of the Duke's cricket ball and the British Cricket Balls Limited. And as you can see, currently though the English season is almost at the second half, but they have overseas orders. So as you can see, the balls are being made. The factory is situated a bit outskirts in London, but they keep a very low profile over here, because you don't see a fancy hoardings or anything outside the factory. In fact, if you come here for the first time, you'll never know that this is a factory of the balls. And I would like to welcome Mr. Jajodia here, Mr. Dilip Jajodia. Hello and welcome to OneCricket. So, Mr. Jajodia, first of all, tell me, why do you keep a low profile to your factory?
Well, I suppose we're modest people. I believe that we're serious people. We get on with what we do, which is to make cricket balls, and we don't believe in wasting money on unnecessary things. We're not into showing off that we've got a big flash factory with big signs and gardens and all that sort of thing. We're just a modest company. We're a small family business, and we believe in putting all our resources into the product because it's a very difficult product to make. And it's an ongoing thing. It's 24 hours a day, almost all the time. So in a way, we don't even have time to stop and think, about changing things. But there we are. We carry on, and hopefully, at the end of the day, it's the product that counts.
Well, your product has been rated quite highly, especially by the Indian players. I can remember when Virat Kohli once came here in 2018, and he said that against the Duke's ball, you cannot take your ego at the crease. Someone like Ravichandran Ashwin, he always said that Duke's ball is the most preferred ball for him, even on overseas pitches. Yes. So, I'm sure that you get, at the end of the day, when you get this praise from the, biggest stars of the game, it delights.
That's what it's about. That's the motivational thing, to be recognized.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Yes.
So what people don't realize is that it's a very, on the surface, it's a red and round object, and people think it should be easy to lay their hands on it. I mean, I'll just show you. That's the actual official stamp. It takes 3.5 man-hours to make one of these.
3.5 man-hours.
Man-hours to do all the various things to do with it. And so it's highly complex in as much as, and I'll show you in due course, how it gets assembled. And of course, what you've got to realize is that object, that's 156 grams. Mm-hmm. And of course, these days you've got bats which are extremely powerful.
Yes.
And they're being hit for 80 overs into the stands, hitting concrete, hitting seats, advertising hoardings and all that. And they're still expected to stay around and in great condition for 80 overs. It's not possible. It has to depreciate as it goes along.
Yeah.
But, that's one of those things. It's one of the occupational hazards. You have to put up with it. But in general terms, I think we do a pretty good job.
Is this the ball for use for the test match?
Yes, this is a test match ball. Yeah, with special.
So maybe someone like James Anderson will be bowling with this ball.
He's been very successful.
So if I can show you that this is one of those test match balls that will be used on probably in the next England South Africa series.
Yes.
So, Mr. Jajodia, I would like to know that now the English summer is in its second half, but still I can see that your workers are quite busy. So, I am sure there are some overseas orders for you.
Yes, well, and also finishing off the season. The demand it's been a good summer, so a lot of people are cautious. They normally order slightly less balls because it rains quite a lot.
Yeah.
But this year, all of a sudden, there's not a lot of games have been cancelled, so they're all suddenly discovering that they might be a bit short.
Yeah.
So we're getting repeat orders. And yes, we are starting the build up for our overseas markets in Australia and South Africa and so on.
So just tell me one thing, because when I like spoken with you before, you have told me, but just for our audience, what is, you made specific balls for specific conditions, like
Yes.
for English condition I can see there's a more of grease there,
Yes.
and for you are, I'm sure that for West Indian conditions, Caribbean
Yes.
condition you made. So can you please explain this?
Yes, but as you say, the leather, the fundamental leather is the same for all the models, but how you finish it is the key.
And your leather, sorry to interrupt you, it comes from,
It's all English. It's from Derbyshire where the tannery is,
Okay.
and we hope the hides are from Scotland because that's the best place
Yeah.
for cows to graze and so on. So the English leather has grease in it to mainly to resist water,
yes,
and this is quite a wet country normally. This
Normally.
is exceptional. So the tradition of putting grease into the leather is very
Yes.
English.
yes,
And the only other country that it really works is New Zealand, where their
Yes.
conditions are very similar. So that's the tradition. And when you put grease into the leather, it changes the color. And
Yeah.
it goes quite dark.
yes,
You see, I mean, that's one without any polish. You can see the grease is in the leather. And it can go literally as dark as that sometimes. And this is one of the problems as well, that it changes color.
Yeah.
And you can't forecast exactly what that's going to be. So when
Yes.
it becomes very dark, we have to reject it because it's too
of
dark.
course.
Uh,
But it's a challenge if you make a pink ball.
that's I'll come to that in a minute because that basically is the same as the balls we make for the West Indies or for Australia and so on, where there's no grease. So it kind of maintains its color. That's the basic leather color. And it's protected with a coating, which we make here to stop the water getting in. So that's the key. It's keeping moisture out. Eventually, moisture will go through the thread.
Of course.
But, that's something you can't. If it's pouring with rain, you shouldn't be playing cricket. But, if it's normal dampish conditions, it's fine. So then that has to be slightly different in terms of dye. So that's the major difference. Now, when it comes to color, I've got a pink ball here. That also is a pigment that's applied to the surface of the leather to give it the color. You can't dye it.
Yeah.
It will become dull and horrible. So when you've got a pigment applied to the surface, the way you apply that is the secret,
Of
the way
course.
we do it. And it's resilient and so on. And then, of course, again, we apply another polish to protect the pink. And so that's all our expertise. So and the same thing applies to white balls, so it's the same sort of thing. So white, pink, orange, these are pigmented balls. Now I have a white ball here. So the key is to keep it white. Now our white balls, for example, the technology we've got, that'll last 50 overs without need to be changed.
Okay, so I if I'm not wrong, your white balls were used in 1999 World Cup.
Correct. Yeah, and they only use one ball for 50 overs. So at the moment they're using two,
Yes.
one from each end, which I think is unnecessary because it changes the game, so to speak. Because I think a ball should deteriorate over a period of time, which gives the opportunity for the change in bowling,
Yeah.
medium pace to spin
Maybe
and so on.
spinners are slowly getting out of the game,
Yeah, exactly. And that's up to the people who run the game to make their decisions.
and it is unnecessary cost. It is increasing the cost also.
Hugely. I mean, it's double the cost, isn't it? If you have two balls for 50 overs, then
Yeah.
it's doubling the cost. And certainly the same ball being used in T20 is also a luxury, I think, which frankly can't be afforded by world cricket.
Yeah.
There could be millions saved, actually, if they took the trouble to think about it very hard. Because, balls are being used in T20, which again, quite a lot of them get hit out of the ground anyway, and, they're costing about $125. So, why are they doing this? We can produce a really good product for a lot less. I'm not selling the cheapness. I'm selling the technical first and just pointing out the cost.
And I know that some of the ICC recently experimented with your white ball in some of their games.
Yes. And they were successful. They use them for 50 overs. They're fully aware that they last 50 overs. But then we were hit by COVID, so that progress we made up to that point sort of stalled because
Yeah.
there was difficulty in reorganizing tournaments, and we're hoping that might all start again now, in which case we might get another opportunity. And I think it'll be good if they do give us another chance. Balls everywhere. So this is the stamping
So this is the stamping process.
stamping process, yeah. The heat foil stamping. And then from here, depending on what type of model it is, but this process here is called milling. And milling is putting the balls into shape. These are test match balls.
Okay. So
And the final shape takes place in these, they call mills, but they're basically so you get the final shape. So you put it in and clamp it down, and then after a period of time, depending on what model and how much it needs, you then turn it onto the following that are quarter seam. So you turn it to the next quarter seam, put it back, and then clamp it down again. Now this amount of pressure
yeah.
is something that everybody who works have their own feeling, and you can tell.
Yes.
You don't have a machine or anything. This is all in the body. So you say,
So, yeah.
that
So
means
it's all about human touch.
all about human, entirely handmade, entirely hand controlled. Everything is a human live product, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, Mr. Jajodia, I have to, since you are talking about the shape, and I have to ask this question: that this summer there has been a lot of issues with the Duke's ball, as you are being aware of. Some of the balls going out of shape quite quickly, because we haven't seen this before with the Duke's ball. Because whenever we talk about Duke's ball, we talk about quality, we talk about the product, we talk about how its durability. But this summer it has been different. So what according to you was the reason behind it?
Well, to start with, I can't give you an exact reason because it's too early, because it's all a very slow process. So what you have to do is to look at the time scale from, if you like, the cow, which is the base material, and then it's slaughtered and the leather starts its journey and it goes through a tanning process and so on. And frankly, I personally think that where we have a problem here is that this was happening going back into the COVID era. So if you can just picture the tannery, they've gone in lockdown, they've lost some staff or they've been put on furlough. They come, it's not regular process. So somewhere along the line, either in the tanning process or in the actual stretching process or somewhere along the line, something has gone wrong with the processing of the leather. Now, when the leather arrives, we do all sorts of checks and feeling, looking, all that sort of thing, and everything looks okay. So it's not, it doesn't give you that impression. So when you then carry on, you make the ball. And then, of course, with cricket, it's rather unique that you can't test it like other products, which are engineered products. So the product has to be made into the product, and then it goes to the player, and you only know it's going to fail when it's used. So you can't have a ball for 20 balls in the nets and say, oh yeah, this one is okay. You can't then supply that to Anderson. He'd be quite grumpy if he gets a used ball. It's a used ball after one delivery. So that's the nature of the product, that you have to supply it new. And if there's a problem, unfortunately it's a problem. And we have to accept it, but we can't do a great deal about it because it's in the process. But we can do something like this, so anywhere where there's pressure on the leather, in the molding, I'll show you the actual molding, we can put more pressure on that to try and get the fibers holding together better. We can give this more time to press it all together. So that's all we can do. Now, the reason they're sort of going out of shape or going soft is another complaint, is that the tension has to be there in the product, being belted for 80 overs, we discussed hitting stands and all that. So if any part of that production is not quite right, then it knocks on. So sometimes, one stitch cuts, it rips, and it looks awful.
Okay.
It only needs one stitch. One stitch, that pressure splits, then it's gone. So this is what's been happening, that the pressure is not being maintained. So my diagnosis is that there is stretch in the leather. And something the eye can't see, we can't tell by hand, it's in it, so we're stuck. So we've been doing all these things manually to try and improve it. And I think it has been getting gradually better. To be fair, we've had 4 test matches. We've had great cricket. We've had 4 results. From an English point of view, 4-0. So that's good. And so that's something we should be happy about. And I think also the county game, there's been lots of high-scoring result cricket. So the inconvenience of changing the ball, of course, is irritating and very annoying, and we really don't want it because we've never had this problem. But the balls are still doing what they should do, and that is the concept of the ball, which is hand-stitched, it swings, and so on, which is very important. So, yes, we've accepted that, but we're now working very hard. In fact, only this morning I was talking to the owner of the tannery, and they're working on, they're investigating themselves, and hopefully, as soon as we get the new batches of leather, we would be more relaxed that it's back to normal. They haven't identified why it might be wrong either, because you have to go back through the work schedules and so on to see where it went wrong. So that's it. That's where we are.
And talking about this new concept of not using saliva, how it has impacted on.
That's exaggerated, actually. I think, frankly, if a bowler was to use a lot of perspiration, and I do feel that what people don't understand is that leather's a natural raw material, and the trousers they wear is a man-made material, and they don't go together very well. So the famous bowlers, fast bowlers like Malcolm Marshall and Angus Fraser, for example, they always had a towel hanging, cotton towel.
Cotton towel,
So they would get the shine. So I think that the modern bowler, if he's not happy because of saliva going, perhaps he should hang a cotton towel, because that'll help him. Because there is, in your natural perspiration, there are oils that come out of your skin, which helps. And I don't think the bowlers have complained too much about not having saliva. I think, it's a natural thing to put saliva, but they've stopped doing that now, and I think they've got over it. I think they're okay. And that hasn't been the problem. That hasn't been the problem why we have a problem with the ball. I think generally speaking, you've got the white ball, the bowlers manage with that. You can't shine that like you can a red ball.
So now Mr. Jajodia, he will explain how a cricket ball is being made, a 4-piece cricket ball, a test match ball is being made. So all over to you.
Right. I've got two sort of kits here, by the way, red and pink, just to clarify, make it easier. Now, to start with, I think I explained to you that the leather is absolutely crucial. So for the very best balls, we order the very best leather. And if you can just imagine, a cow being cut up the belly and the leather spread out, taken off. So you get the legs in each corner, and you've got the back in the middle. And as you come further down from the middle, it gets to a point where if the cow has had calves, its belly has been stretched. So naturally that leather isn't as strong as on the back. So we don't buy all that belly stuff, we just buy the back. So that's one huge difference. And that's quite expensive just to buy, because we're paying for all of that, we're not using it, the stuff at the bottom. So then along the backbone, you've got about 4 inches of a strip. The 2 strips along the backbone that's the strongest and the best leather for first class and test match cricket. The next 2, we'd say, for Premier League cricket, top amateur cricket. The next 2 for good level of ground cricket, and so on, and that's it. So we don't have too much wastage, and we have the grading of the leather, which is very important. So once we've done that, when we cut, these are the panels. You get 4 of these panels. That's why it's a 4-piece ball.
4-piece ball, of course.
So it's die cut, and we then mark it for the stitcher to follow to put it together.
And it's all about hand stitching.
It's all about hand stitching. So you can see that the very skilled workers follow the markings. They go from here right through and back and so on. So you can see that's a very strong thread. And then the skill is in the pulling. Some people do this by machine, and that's very difficult because you can't tell what exactly the tension is. This comes back to the skill of the worker and the feel that he has. So he pulls that very tight. So once that's done, it's then pushed inside out to start to form the cup. So we have here, it's hydraulically molded to form a cup. And when it's pushed down, that stitching will form a ridge inside. You can see those marking lines. where the stitching starts and ends, there will be a ridge, which will make it, uneven on the surface. So you have to fit what's called a false quarter to fill that gap. So it's chamfered to fit, and then that's hydraulically molded again, and that's leather as well. And this is we some people use plastic and so on. We don't do that. So then you can, if you look at that, it's pretty tough, right? So that is the basic cup, and you need 2 of those cups. So you trim the waste material, and so you got the two halves, and there's a cork latex rubber center, which is actually one of the few technical bits where it's molded. It's they're all the same when they come out. It's the same raw material. It goes in under pressure and so on. So you've got the center, which the fitting is very key. So that fitting, go back to this one, is then pushed. There's a gadget that pushes it up, and then it's got to be, with a hand stitch ball, you start by joining it with the middle rows of stitching. With machine stitch balls, the outer 2 rows are just machine stitch, it's just decoration. Whereas with our ball, the middle bit gets the ball together, and then it's fully hand stitched, going backwards and forwards. So, it goes from that in the middle to going backwards and forwards. So that row goes down to there and so on. So you can imagine a whole mesh of stitching all the way around. So this forms a sort of a rudder, and also a bit of a lift underneath. It gives the leather. So when a bowler runs in, he's got the rudder that gives him the ability to swing the ball, and then also when he hits the deck, because of the stitching on the inside, it gives it a bit of traction, so it can move off the seam. Now, if it was machine stitched, it goes flat very quickly.
Yeah.
So the ball has got nothing. So early overs might be able to do a bit, and then
It is also hard to grip for the spinners,
yes, I think spin bowlers would. At the end of the day,
especially the finger spinners.
yes, I mean we make the balls to a standard, and a technical standard, and there are small adjustments you can make. For example, you can try and achieve a lighter color or a darker color and so on. But everything in terms of seam width and all that is all controlled, and we will not get away from that. That's it. We make it to a standard. Stitching, you can pull it a bit tighter, but you can't do anything more dramatic than that. So that essentially is it. So therefore, there's a lot of work that goes on, lots of hands-on control to make sure that all these raw materials are the best, put together the best, checked all the way through. Lots of handling, this is the key. And then, as I was saying to you earlier, when it's ready, after all that shaping and all that, it's now going to be hit by a very powerful piece of wood, 480 times in a test match.
Yes.
And it has to survive. And if anything is wrong, like for example, if one stitch cuts through, it just rips, and it looks awful. But that's it. The tension. Once the tension goes out of the ball, this is why, in my view, I'm absolutely convinced that a hand stitch ball is the answer, because you can't get that tension without hand stitching.
Of course.
So that's why I believe in it. I mean, I could make machine stitch balls, no problem, but I don't do it.
And will that be cost effective to you?
Oh yeah, it'll be cost effective. I mean, you were saying 3.5 man hours to make one of these, an hour and a quarter to make a machine stitch ball, perhaps an hour and a half. So it's almost half time. And yet, I believe that our machine stitch competitors are much more expensive than us. But that's their business, nothing to do with me. All I can justify is the fact that we've got a lot of man hours in the product. And the good thing is that it gives you this attention to, the tension and so on. But, of course, because it's so important, slightly something goes wrong like we've had this year, then you have a big problem. So that's the downside. But we've not had it happen before in any substantial way. We get very few, and normally even in the club game, we literally have one or two balls somebody might send back because it's split, it's hit something. But we don't get, I mean, if we look at any one of our balls, the shape, it's so important. The way we make things, they hold their shape. This is the key to it. Any bowler will tell you that it's got to have the right feel in the hand. And,
Yes.
I've been doing this for 50 years, so, I kind of know what the feel in the hand is. I used to play myself, so, I think that's very important. So,
You
we're
bought
dedicated.
you bought this company in
Bought the company in 1987 from Gray Nichols and Stuart Surridge, the old Stuart Surridge. They owned the company, and it was not very successful because they were themselves buying imported balls. So they invited me in, and we tried to save the company, and I'm pleased to say we did.
and I am sure that after all these years, you have been very satisfied with the work we have done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is, for me, is a passion. It's not just a money-making business. Of course, you have to make money to survive. But I think that, as you were saying earlier, when you get positive feedback from players, and that is what it's about. The satisfaction of hearing that and being acknowledged as producing the best. That's what it's about. We've taken the criticism and we've said, look, we're terribly sorry that we can't give you any excuses. All we can do is to keep investigating and track down the problem and then make sure it doesn't happen again. It's as simple as that.
So as Mr. Jajodia has explained, the Duke's Ball is all about the product rather than all the marketing or involving with the others, some of his competitors. I think Duke's is all about the product, and it's not just a money-making business for him. Of course, financials are important, but he does it more as he's an enthusiast. He played cricket himself. He knows what a good cricket ball looks like. He is an expert on this field, and he is still investing his time, investing his money into this business to make this product, probably, as arguably many of the top cricketers says, best in the business. Thank you, Mr. Jajodia. Thank you for your time, and thank you for explaining to our audience how a Duke's cricket ball is being made.
Great pleasure. Thank you.